Alright guys, so today we're going to be doing some sprinting. I already basically got my warm-up done because I was running away from the mosquitoes. Summer is in full swing here in South Florida, and I just got absolutely mauled by about 50 of them. So, sprinting. Why something like sprinting is important regardless of your age. There are all kinds of reasons for why you'd want to start some sprinting, but there are some caveats to actually starting that process. If you're not used to sprinting, then you're going to need to build up to it like anything else. It's a progressive overload system, and if you haven't done it for a very long time or haven't done it really ever at all at a high level, most people have probably never done a full-out sprint with the intent to run absolutely as fast as they can. Sprinting can be extremely beneficial, but if you're not used to it, you could very actually easily hurt yourself. I've seen it happen with people who were not quite conditioned enough. Their feet, ankles, knees, hips couldn't handle the forces involved, and so they tear a calf, they injure a hamstring, a groin, what have you. So there are some caveats there. If you're going to start the process of picking up and adding sprinting into your training routine, that's great. It's a great endeavor to have, but you don't necessarily want to start too fast. You want to get the process going fast by doing things like starting with a dynamic warm-up, which is just basically light forward, backward, side to side movements, maybe some rotational movements with things like bands, getting your hips warmed up with hip circle type bands, get some shoulder bands, just get the body primed up in as many ways as possible, and then start the process of actually actively engaging your foot and ankle in a way that develops force control. And that's a lot of what you're dealing with when it comes to something like sprinting. Your body is somewhere between 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 times its weight when you're in a full tilt sprint, especially when you first take off from a dead stop. You're leaning forward, you're projecting yourself out by essentially jumping out, and then you're creating as much force through the ground as quickly as possible as you're sprinting. And that's just a linear sprint. We're not even talking about doing any kind of agilities. And even a short burst like that can be quite a bit of force. So making sure to strengthen your foot and ankle, doing things like toe walks and dorsiflexions, using bands on your foot and ankle, doing some very basic band work and barefoot work to get your foot and ankle primed and prepared to handle the floor. Even something as simple as very light bounces on the balls of your feet on a relatively soft surface like a turf grass or on an exercise mat can start the process of priming your foot and ankle and the rest of your system for running. And then on top of that, you want to start, like I said, doing a dynamic warm-up pretty consistently. That's going to be stuff like jogging down, backpedaling back, side shuffling, doing a good bit of those dynamic movements to prepare your tissues for handling those forces and starting to open things up. It's getting blood flow, it's getting a sweat going, it's getting your endorphins going, and it's starting to get the fascia around all of your tissues ready to integrate all of those systems together, especially if you're a person who's trained in primarily the gym environment, doing isolated exercises and stationary exercises. You start adding these dynamic things in, you might start feeling some old stuff cropping up, right? Stuff like foot and ankle injuries that you had previously forgotten about, or hamstring issues, hip issues, things like that. So your volumes are really going to be quite low in the beginning, and you might only end up doing a 15 to 20 minute sprint workout that's primarily a dynamic warm-up, and then follow that up with a few linear sprints that are really quite slow speed. I'm talking 50 to 60%, just getting the body used to moving that way over a very short distance, maybe 40 to 50 yards max. And a lot of that is just going to be about finding your stride, learning to run on the balls of your feet, learning to move your entire body as a unit. And the benefits of that are, again, you're teaching your body to experience greater and greater levels of force. So there's your progressive overload, there's the SAID principle, specific adaptations to increase demands, and so your body is going to adapt to that over time, and that's going to be a lengthy process. But like every training cycle is a somewhat lengthy process. You're usually talking about 8 to 12 week training cycles. So if sprinting is going to be something that you start to include into your training, you may or may not want to also include strength training in that process that's conducive to becoming a better sprinter. So things like unilateral exercises like Bulgarian split squats, step ups, single leg glute bridges, and stuff that's maybe a little bit more rapid in the movements. Even though they're more stationary, you can move with more explosiveness, add a little bit of like a plyometric element to it, start doing stuff that's very light like single leg skips, start doing light bounds, things that are going to teach your body to spring off the floor, and most importantly reduce ground contact time, because the longer your foot's on that ground, the more force is being absorbed. So it's a nice balance between strength training and plyometric explosive type training, and if you do it the right way, sprinting can be extremely beneficial, and it can really add a dynamic factor to your training that is fun and restores a lot of your own personal level of self-confidence in your body's ability to perform, because that's really what we're driving at here. Is when we lose the ability to do things that we used to be able to do, it starts to become a hit up here and in here. And again, I'll caveat that with, we want to get the body prepared to do this over time. We want to make sure that the body can handle what it's doing, and even people who are considerably bigger than you might think can run. If you look at some large rugby players and NFL type guys, these are guys who are big people, massive individuals, and they can move. So it's not necessarily an issue of sheer body weight. It's the body's ability to handle that weight and move it around through space. So if we're going to break it all down to a simple format, it would be starting the process with very basic strength exercises for the foot and ankle, hamstrings, glutes, doing things like foot and ankle exercises like toe walks, band exercises, barefoot training, learning to spring off the floor with basic toe bounces on 2 legs and eventually on 1 leg over the course of a few weeks. Starting to build in your dynamic warm-ups probably into just about every workout. That would be jogging down, backpedaling back, side shuffling, cariokas, very light, short bounds, skips, things of that nature, so that your neurological system and your muscular system are used to all those different forces and all those different movement patterns, because even in a linear sprint you don't realize how much of that is being managed. Beyond that, you would actually start the process of sprinting. So you would pick a day, pick a time, go out, do your dynamic warm-up, line up a certain distance of run, and start working on building up a stride. And that's a lot of what you'll see in this video here, is just feeling the stride and learning to build intensity on it. If you've been doing it for a long time, then you should have no problem once you're warmed up with going all out and trying to really toe the line of what would be an absolute 100% all-out sprint. And I'm talking, you're thinking of, how do I go from 0 to 60 as quickly as possible, and how do I sustain that for as long as possible? We're trying to get up to an absolute maximal sprint, right? And the body needs to be able to feel that 90 to 95% all-out force production and power production in order to start to make changes that will ultimately make you faster. And so if you don't have the capacity to do that in the beginning, then you've got to build up to it with stuff like 50 to 60% stride outs and build-ups, right? Going to from 0 to 60 over a lengthier period of time, but allowing your body to actually feel that, so that it's not just a full stop into an explosive takeoff. That's the type of stuff that gets people hurt if they're not prepared for it. So take your time, start building these principles into your training regularly, and you'll start to see the changes that come along with it, like feeling more springy in your movement patterns, even in the daily efforts of like picking stuff up, putting it down, just going about your day, and the conditioning that comes along with it, because your anaerobic capacity is going to increase. You're working on stuff like your VO2 max, so if you're sprinting as fast as you possibly can, it's going to take a little bit of time to recover. If you shorten those recovery times between single sprints, then you might find that that the speed starts to suffer. So if over time you realize, I can run faster, I can run further, as fast as possible, and it takes me actually only a short period of time to recover, I feel like I could do that again, and I could do that for just as many sprints or more than I did when I first started this program, then you know that you're actually increasing your overall working capacity. So that's on sprinting, guys. Try this out. I'm going to include a program in there. Make sure to subscribe and put this into work. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or DM me. But try it out. Let me see how it goes. All right, live kinetically, y'all.